My husband says, I have to talk to you. I have to tell you something. And I go, what? Hurry up. I have a live show at 4. And he says, a paparazzi caught me with another woman and they're asking $200,000 for the pictures. I go, what? And right away I go, you a paparazzi? Why would a paparazzi follow you? Who's the woman? He's like, no one important. Because I thought he was got to be a public figure. Why would they follow him? No one important. And I stay quiet. And he says, we're not paying the money.
The night before, Lorenzo asked me to go for a walk. And we took the dogs for a walk. And he says, I have to tell you something. And I go, what happened? I thought maybe he was sick or something was going, I don't know what I
you
thought.
Knew there was something.
I knew something was happening that wasn't right. So he tells me the situation. Oh my God, Lorenzo, like, what are you going to do? He started going off on the fact that he felt that he wasn't the center of your life, that the kids came first and the dogs came first. And I said to him, Lorenzo, you do realize that once you have kids, the kids have to come first. And Lily's career, he goes, yeah, but men, we need to feel like we're like being taken care of. And I said, okay, hold on. I was upset. You've been like my daughter.
Yes.
I asked him if he was in love with the woman. And he said no. I said, you need to tell Lily before she goes to work tomorrow, because he told me that everyone at work already knew.
That's when I went like, cuckoo. Oh my God, this is major. He tells me, Univision knows, pictures were taken to Univision. When I find out that the paparazzi had caught him with another woman and the pictures were taken to my job, to my colleagues, to the producers of my show, to Univision, my second home for 30 years.
Decades.
I'm going like, how come I don't know anything? And I was flipping out because you start going like...
You were in the dark.
So imagine, right from the beginning, I just felt so humiliated. Privately and then publicly. My boss, Mariela, first of all, she says, I can't buy these pictures. This is the husband of my talent. I can't buy these pictures. And the paparazzi said, no problem. I have a bunch of places that I can go and sell the pictures. And then she tells me, you just found out today?
You're the last person to know.
I go, you're the one that got the call from...
We wish this never could have happened. The lawyer from the Univision called me. They said, listen, it's a paparazzi, I want to sell you the pictures. Well, that call to me was like the biggest surprise because I saw everything was going fine. I called Lorenzo. He was not aware somebody was following him and taking pictures. I said, number one, Lorenzo, I'm going to tell you. They got you. They have many pictures, and I don't know how you're going to handle that. I said, I don't want to tell Gloria now. I don't want to tell Lily. I'm not going to talk about it. That's not my position. This is your gig. You have to deal with that thing. I think they're going to ask you for a lot of money. He said, let me handle it. And he said, I don't think I'm going to pay. The big problem here comes. I advise him, you play, you pay. I'm sorry. The only thing you have to think here is about your kids. And I said, and you need to talk to Gloria before you talk to Lily to see if she give you any kind of advice. I never saw him back. So it's like somebody died.
Well, for me, guys, I get the news. Then right at the parking lot there, we talked, and he came up with the idea, Lili, why don't you come out publicly, like get ahead of the paparazzi and say that they're trying to blackmail us.
Lorenzo said
Get
that?
ahead of the paparazzi.
Yeah, he told me that.
Yes.
He told me to.
Yeah.
So, of course, I said, fine, we're not paying the money. I'm going to follow your advice. When I sit with my boss and the lawyers, I defended him for hours. He wants it to be like this. So if I'm coming out public, this is what I'm doing. United front. I was like, I'm protecting my family and no one is going with my husband and my kids. I went like this and I'm like, this is a one-time thing. They followed him. We'll find out who's the paparazzi, why this happened.
Lily and Lorenzo made a pact. they would get ahead of the paparazzi and go public with the story that they were being blackmailed.
When everyone leaves, I stay with my boss. And that's when I freak because she tells me, I have to tell you that the paparazzi left here his number for you, and he has a lot of information. And that's when I realized, whoa, this is not a one-time thing. I go home and I realize, oh my God, the paparazzi has had the pictures for 11 days. I sit with them and I tell them, this happens a lot in marriages that have been together for a long time. And I think the only thing that happened to your father is that he's married to a public figure. That's why a paparazzi has done this to him, has done this to us. There are a lot of men that you guys know that have been unfaithful, and they take it back, and you go through therapy, whatever, and you keep on going.
Right.
So right away, I try to excuse him
Right.
in front of the kids. And at some point, I finish the conversation, and I look at him, and I'm like, you broke my heart. And I storm out of the room after I defended him for hours in front of my boss and the lawyers. And I can say that I got divorced and never, ever had a conversation with him, which I think is the hardest thing because,
No closure.
yeah. And I would just say, God,
Help you.
help me.
When did you have an inkling that something was happening?
It was probably about a year and a half before everything happened. You were traveling. I was supposed to stay at the house with my dad, and he was getting ready to go somewhere, and I was like, oh, where are you going? And he was like, oh, I'm going to eat with some friends. And I was like, oh, okay, what friends? And he was like, you don't know them. And right away, I was like, that's kind of weird because I know all of his friends.
Right.
I was like, okay, but which restaurant? I wanted to have some idea of what was going on because I was going to be staying home alone, and I felt safer that way just knowing
You
where
were
he was. I was
at the
14.
time.
I never liked being home alone at night. Ever since I was a kid, I was always terrified. So I started calling my dad, and he wasn't responding. And then he finally responded, and I just heard really loud music. And he was like, I can't hear you, I'll text you. And he just hung up. And then I was like, can you please come home? I just don't feel safe. So he got home, and I got really upset because I was like, I called you 20 times. I could have been getting kidnapped.
Yeah.
There could have
Oh,
been a
you're my
robber.
dad.
I was at home by myself. Anything could have been happening. You were who was supposed to be taking care of me. And he was like, this is why I hate being here. The second I walk in, I'm always getting punished or someone's getting mad at me for
Victim
something.
card.
So then he was like, no, I'm leaving again. And then he left. And I was
He,
at
like,
home by
got
myself.
ticked off and left you
Yeah,
there?
so then I texted one of my really close friends. I think something's going on with my dad. I think he's seeing someone else because this is just weird at this point.
Exactly.
Did you ever think about telling your mom? Did that even ever cross your mind?
No, because I just felt like if it wasn't true, first it would have hurt him to be thinking that his daughter's accusing him of something like that. So I was like, I don't want to start something and it not be true and then it just be a bunch
So
of
you
tension.
kept it inside for a year.
Yeah, and I didn't want
You
to
were-
tell my brother either because
Oh my
he was
gosh.
probably going to be thinking that I'm crazy. But I didn't feel like there was anyone that I could tell that it wouldn't affect them too.
So you kind of went from 14 to 30.
I remember vividly that night when they told us, I just remember seeing my brother's face and he was like, I was just like, okay, I was right. I felt like it wasn't new news to me because I saw it coming.
Did you think he was going to leave?
No, I just never
Me
saw
neither.
having divorced parents. I never thought of it as a possibility
neither.
because all my friends who had divorced parents, it happened when they were really young.
Usually when you've made it to a quarter century,
Like we did.
you're
came
not
out of
thinking.
nowhere.
Okay, guys, but this is what I learned, and I want to talk to divorced women. I made a choice from the beginning to lead with love, because what happened is for us, for Lorenzo and for me. And I decided to keep the best with me, not the worst.
Yes,
a good
amen.
decision.
I didn't want to get a divorce, and I pushed and pushed and pushed to get past everything that was going on. It didn't happen. And one day, I just woke up and said, Okay, Lili, it's time to let go. Respira, inspira, vive y deja vivir. There's one thing that I do every night before I go to sleep. I pray for my kids to meet the guy that I married. Because the guy that I married is not the guy that I divorced. And not for me anymore, but them. They deserve to meet that incredible guy that I married. And I can't say any more than that. You know.